Son, and Holy Spirit. Our lessons today, especially from Genesis and Matthew, are very familiar. They're great stories, full of drama. And given the nature of Lent, it is not difficult to understand why they've been associated with the season's beginning. But even that association of these lessons with the beginning of Lent has become so normal to many of us that we cease seeing any nuances. Preachers often find themselves wondering, what new can I say about this, of that, or that story? Or, it's the first Sunday of Lent. They've already heard my beginning of Lent sermons. These things could easily be said of these stories on this Sunday, except that you haven't heard many of my beginning of Lent sermons. Given that scenario, then, I'm going to try to do something consistent with another passage from Matthew's Gospel, when at the end of a series of parables, Jesus tells his followers that the kingdom of heaven is like a person who draws out of his treasure something old and something new. Certainly, one old theme common to both stories in Genesis and Matthew is the presence of the tempter. Whether it's the serpent of Genesis 3 or the devil in Matthew 4, we know that, hearing the beginning of each, to quote from one of the Harry Potter movies, which took it from Macbeth, something wicked this way comes. And we know the outcome. In Genesis, we read of temptation. Adam and Eve's succumbing to temptation. And their just desserts. They'll have to toil for their food. Eve will experience pain in childbirth. The serpent has to live on its belly forever. In Matthew, we read of Jesus' temptation, his resisting of that temptation, as well as his just desserts. Angels minister to him, and the devil departs. Something else that is old, although perhaps not as obvious, is that God is ultimately responsible for the temptations. God created the serpent as a crafty beast. God's Spirit drove Jesus into the wilderness to be tempted. God's somewhat troubling role in these stories is worth a sermon in itself, and maybe you've heard one, but that's not where I'm going today. One thing that struck me anew was the statement in Genesis about the subtleness or craftiness of the serpent or tempter. And I read the account again, this version from the paraphrase or translation known as the Message. The serpent was clever, more clever than any wild animal God had made. He spoke to the woman. Do I understand that God told you not to eat from any tree in the garden? Oh, the woman said to the serpent, not at all. We can eat from the trees in the garden. It's only about the tree in the middle of the garden that God said, don't eat from it. God knows that the moment you eat from that tree, or don't even eat it or touch it, you'll die. And the serpent told the woman, you won't die. God knows that the moment you eat from that tree, you'll see what's really going on. You'll be just like God, knowing everything, ranging all the way from good to evil. When the woman saw that the tree looked like good eating and realized what she would get out of it, she'd know everything, she took and ate the fruit and then gave some to her husband, and he ate. Immediately, the two of them did see what's really going on. They saw themselves naked. They sewed fig leaves together as makeshift clothes for themselves. And I was puzzled by what exactly was so subtle or crafty or clever about the serpent's words. and it took some time before it hit me. Genesis is a book of beginnings. Many of the accounts are, to use a technical term, etiological. That is, they told stories about how things started, how the earth was created, how places got their names, how families were formed, etc. Much like the Greek myth of Pandora and her box, this story of Adam and Eve told how disobedience and its consequences entered human experience. It's the story of the end of the innocents. And therein lies the rub. Prior to the first couple's yielding to temptation, there was no death. Think about that. Think about God's warning to them. How did they know what the injunction not to eat of the fruit would mean for them? It would be like telling someone that something tasted like a banana when that person had never had one. And so the crafty serpent, who must have known something about death, even though Adam and Eve didn't, told Eve that to die really meant you'll be like gods. Oh, she replied, that doesn't sound so bad. Indeed, it sounds pretty good. And the fruit looks tasty. You'll also have to wonder why, or you'll have to wonder, by the way, what Adam and Eve knew of good and evil. There having been none of that in the garden either. But they did know about gods, or God. And clearly the desire to be divine overshadowed all other concerns or doubts. So Eve ate from the tree and served Adam. And as they say, the rest is history. But we can understand a bit about their actions. Who wouldn't want to be a god after all? In this story of beginnings, the serpent's subtlety of appealing to human pride achieved its desired end. The dark side of becoming a god was also behind the temptations put by Diabolos, the devil, to Jesus in the garden, in the desert. Behave like God and feed the world, or at least yourself. Tempt death and prove your immortality. Rule the world. Just as in Genesis, however, there was a catch. The catch was a lowering of Jesus' real status to demigod. He would become the servant of the devils. But given Jesus' weakened state, the devil knew he'd been fasting 40 days and 40 nights. The crafty tempter thought he might slide that little detail of servitude by him. But no, Jesus knew what was what. He rebuked the devil and began his ministry. The tempter was crafty, subtle, clever, but could be denied and rebuked if one was prepared, and Jesus surely was. His ready quotations of Scripture pointed to that preparation and suggested great familiarity with his sacred texts and traditions. Another thing I noticed this time around in reading these lessons was that Jesus was tempted after he fasted. I was quite taken with this as I considered my own upcoming Lenten disciplines. My discipline, my self-denial, is a denial of something I generally enjoy. The reminder of its absence constantly goads me. And so my experience has been that I'm tempted to break my Lenten fast all the time. But in Jesus' situation, he fasted. And afterwards, he was famished. And then the temptations of the devil faced him. Whether Jesus was tempted to eat during his fast or whether there was even food available in the desert, we don't know. But his being famished and weakened at the end of the 40 days provided a great opportunity for those major temptations posed by the devil. I have to think, however, that Jesus' experience during the 40-day fast were equal preparation for that test. In other words, The fasting was ascetic behavior. Ascetic, from the Greek askesis, was a word originally applied to an athlete's training for competition. Jesus' self-denial during the 40 days was therefore training for the more significant competition he was about to face. And that gave me a new perspective on my Lent. The giving up or taking on that I adopt are less about no ice cream for 40 days or reading Augustine's Confessions from beginning to end, but more about the training, the discipline necessary to withstand not just the cravings to indulge in ice cream or not read Augustine, but to deal with the larger temptations that are sure to come. This is a little different from Lenten deprivation from ice cream being relieved by the Easter joy of eating quarts of penny cherries. It's a knowing that I can succeed in self-denial. Little things prepare for the big ones. Returning to the root meaning of ascesis might be helpful here. Practice for sports or repetitive military drill instill fundamental necessary skills. But they create a habit of life so that when the athlete or soldier is under stress, the responses come automatically. Think muscle memory. Spring training, now upon us, not only limbers up the athlete's muscles, but reinstills the basics in a ball player, so that making the double play is instinctual, regardless of circumstances. Constant practice is what makes Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story the Golden Glove players that they are. In a similar fashion, the ascesis of my Lenten discipline makes it easier for me to practice the same kind of discipline when the 40 days are o'er. The craftiness of the tempter is guaranteed. Our weak points will be put to the test. There's subtlety at work even within our tradition. You know, kind of like, well, Sundays are in Lent, but not of Lent. So I can go ahead and eat ice cream on Sundays. Or situations will be twisted to appear to be to our advantage. For example, put in the current political context, well, if I modify my position on this issue, it will only compromise my principles a little, but it will be more in line with what I see in the polls, and thus make me more electable with that constituency. Attentive Lenten discipline, aligning our wills with God's, makes answering that kind of temptation almost automatic. The better we attend to the easy work of Lent, the better we'll be able to face the hard work of life. May then our Lenten ascesis prepare us to meet the challenge. Blessings for a holy Lent.